What happens when one of Hollywood's most unpredictable actors sits down with daytime television's boldest, most controversial host? And what should have been a routine interview erupts into a jaw-dropping live television showdown? Today, you're about to see Nicolas Cage like never before. And trust me, you won't believe the words coming out of his mouth. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment. You do not want to miss a second of this. The studio of The View was buzzing with anticipation as Nicolas Cage took his seat. Even in casual conversation, his signature intensity was impossible to ignore. He was there to talk about his latest thriller, but Joy Behar had a very different agenda in mind. Joy leaned forward with that infamous smirk. "Nicolas, I have to ask, what about those financial troubles a few years back? Buying castles, dinosaur skulls. Honestly, wasn't that a little reckless?" A chill seemed to ripple through the studio. Cage's jaw tightened ever so slightly, but his voice remained calm, deliberate. "Joy, I think that's a very simplified way of looking at someone's life choices. I made investments. Some worked out, some didn't. That's called being human." The audience murmured. Joy laughed, turning toward them. "Investments? Really? Is that what we're calling a pyramid tomb these days? Come on, Nicolas, you have to admit, some of those purchases were just wild." Whoopi Goldberg shifted in her seat, sensing the tension escalating. "Maybe we should focus on the movie," she suggested, diplomatically. But Joy wasn't finished. No, people want the real story. I mean, Nicolas, some of your movies, let's be honest, they've been a little questionable. Like that one with animatronic pizza monsters. What was that about?" Cage leaned forward, and that familiar fire lit up his eyes. "You know, Joy, it's fascinating that someone whose career is built on sitting at a table and offering opinions would critique someone who actually makes art." A hush fell over the room. Even the cameramen seemed to hold their breath. Joy's smile wavered for a moment, then returned sharper than ever. "Art? Really? Screaming about bees? Dressing up like a bunny rabbit? Come on, Nicolas. You've made some stinkers." "I own everything I've done," Cage said, his voice firm, rising slightly. "Every role, every choice, every moment of my career has been deliberate. I don't hide behind a desk throwing cheap shots at people who are out there taking risks." Sarah Haynes tried to steer the conversation back on track. "Nicolas, tell us about your new film." "Oh, let me guess," Joy interrupted. "Another Nicolas Cage movie where Nicolas Cage plays Nicolas Cage? Do you even act? Or do you just show up and be weird?" That was the moment everything shifted. Cage's posture stiffened, like a coiled spring ready to snap. His voice dropped to a whisper, but it carried more weight than any shout. "You want to know about acting, Joy? Acting is about truth. It's about finding raw, honest emotion in a moment and sharing it with the world, even when it makes you vulnerable. It's about total commitment to a craft that most people will never understand." Joy rolled her eyes, incredulous. "Oh, please, spare me the lecture. You're not Marlon Brando, Nicolas. You're the guy who screams about stealing the Declaration of Independence and somehow thinks making jokes about people's lives counts as entertainment." Cage leaned in, his voice rising, eyes locked on hers. "I am exactly who I am. And every choice I've made, on screen and off, comes from a place of truth." The studio went silent. The tension was palpable. Every viewer watching at home could feel it. This was more than an interview. It was a collision of worlds, a rare glimpse into the unfiltered mind of Nicolas Cage. And what he said next? Well, you'll just have to watch to believe it. "At least when I commit to something, I commit fully. Cage said, his voice calm but electric. When I take a role, I don't phone it in. I don't sit around judging others while contributing nothing meaningful to the world. The hosts scrambled, trying to regain control, but it was like trying to stop a runaway freight train with bare hands. Contributing nothing? Joy's voice pitched sharply, clearly stung. Sweetheart, I've been in this business longer than you've been alive. I've interviewed presidents, covered wars, reported real news, while you were probably figuring out which relative got you into Hollywood. Cage's eyes flashed with intensity. Ah, there it is. When you can't win an argument with facts, you resort to personal attacks and assumptions. For your information, I earned my place through years of training, dedication, and taking risks that safe little talk show hosts would never dare to take. Safe? Joy practically shrieked. You think what I do is safe? Do you have any idea what it's like to face criticism every single day, to have every word analyzed? The difference, Cage said, leaning forward, his presence commanding, is that I face criticism for creating something. You face it for tearing others down. There's a world of difference between being criticized for your art and being criticized for cruelty. Joy slammed her hand on the table. Cruel? I'm being honest. Someone has to tell the truth about these ridiculous movies you make. Ghost Rider? Really? A flaming skeleton on a motorcycle? What adult thought that was a good idea? Cage's voice dropped to a deadly quiet, low enough to chill the room. You know what, Joy? I'm beginning to understand why people change the channel when you start talking. The audience gasped audibly. Joy's face went through shock, anger, and something bordering on hurt before snapping back to defiant rage. Excuse me? Her voice cracked slightly. Did you just insult my ratings? My show has been on the air for decades. Millions of loyal viewers tune in to hear what I have to say. Cage tilted his head, studying her with a predator-like focus. And yet, here you are, using your platform to attack a guest instead of having a meaningful conversation. Tell me, Joy, when was the last time you created something that actually brought joy instead of just stirring controversy? I create conversation, Joy shot back, but the fire in her voice wavered. I create dialogue about important issues. Important issues? Cage raised an eyebrow, genuinely incredulous. If mocking someone's career choices and ridiculing artistic expression is your idea of important dialogue, maybe the problem isn't my movies. Maybe the problem is your understanding of what actually matters. Another host tried to mediate. Maybe we can all just take a step back. No, Joy interrupted, pointing directly at him. I'm not backing down. You come on my show acting high and mighty about your art, but the truth is, you've been making garbage for years, and everyone knows it. At least I have the guts to say what people are thinking. Cage stood fully now, his frame towering, his shadow stretching across the table. Every camera in the studio captured the transformation. Calm intensity morphing into something formidable. Garbage! His voice carried a dangerous, electrifying edge that made everyone lean forward. Let me tell you something about garbage, Joy. Garbage is tearing people down for entertainment. Garbage is using your influence to spread negativity instead of celebrating human creativity. The room went silent. Every eye was on Cage, every heartbeat seemed to pause. You could almost feel the electricity crackling between him and Joy. And just like that, what started as a simple interview had turned into a legendary television moment no one in that studio, or watching at home, would ever forget. Garbage, Cage said, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife, is mistaking cynicism for wisdom. Oh, don't lecture me about wisdom, Joy shot back, rising to her feet, her eyes blazing. You're an actor, Nicholas. You pretend to be other people for money. I deal with real issues, real politics, real problems that affect real people's lives. Cage's laugh was sharp, humorless, and icy. Your real problem, Joy, seems to be that you can't handle someone who doesn't fit into your narrow little box of what's acceptable. You see something different, something unique, and your first instinct is to mock it, tear it down, to make yourself feel superior by making others feel small. The tension in the studio was palpable. You could practically cut it with a knife. Whoopi frantically signaled the producers, but the cameras kept rolling, capturing every combustible second. "You know what?" Joy yelled, trying to match his intensity. "Maybe I should mock it. Someone needs to call out the Emperor's new clothes here. Your acting style? Yelling and making weird faces? And somehow you've convinced people it's deep and artistic." "My acting style," Cage said, dropping his voice to that low, dangerous whisper that made the room freeze, "comes from years of studying under Sanford Meisner, from dedicating my entire life to the craft, from understanding method, from seeking truth in performance. What's your expertise based on, Joy? Life experience?" "Common sense," she shot back. "The ability to call out ridiculousness when it's ridiculous." Cage shook his head slowly, pity and disdain crossing his face. "You know what's truly ridiculous, Joy? Sitting in judgment of people who are brave enough to put themselves out there, to be vulnerable, to risk failure in pursuit of something meaningful. You've built your career on pointing, laughing, and taking credit for nothing while others do the work." "The work?" Joy's voice was shrill now. "What work? Screaming about stealing the Constitution isn't work. It's overacting for a paycheck." "And what you do," Cage replied coldly, "isn't even that. At least when I overact, I'm trying to give an audience an experience, trying to make them feel something. What you do is meanness disguised as commentary." Ana Navarro tried to intervene. "Nicholas, your fans love your commitment to your roles." "His fans?" Joy interrupted. "Probably teenagers who think loud equals funny. Mature audiences want subtlety, sophistication, not whatever this is." Cage's eyes ignited with a dangerous fire. "Mature audiences? Is that what you call your demographic? People who tune in just to watch you bully guests and spread gossip? That's your idea of mature entertainment?" "I don't bully anyone," Joy protested, but her voice faltered. "I ask tough questions. I hold people accountable." "For what?" Cage demanded. "For daring to make choices you don't approve of? For refusing to play it safe like you've done your entire career?" Joy's face flushed, a storm of anger and something like shame crossing her features. "Play it safe?" she sputtered. "Do you think what I do is safe? Do you think it's easy to sit here every day, facing criticism from people like you who think they're better than everyone else?" "I don't think I'm better than everyone else," Cage said, his voice deadly calm. "But I am better than someone who uses their platform to spread negativity and calls it journalism." Joy's face flickered through a kaleidoscope of emotions: hurt, shock, and then pure, unfiltered fury. "How dare you!" she hissed, her voice trembling with rage. "How dare you come into my house and act like some artistic genius when everyone knows you're just a has-been riding on your uncle's coattails?" The studio was silent. Every eye was glued to Cage. Every heartbeat in the room seemed to pause. The air crackled with electricity. And in that moment, it was clear. This wasn't just an interview. This was a showdown that would go down in television history. The mention of Francis Ford Coppola was the spark that ignited the storm. Cage's entire demeanor shifted, primal and terrifying, like a coiled force ready to strike. His voice, when it came, was low, controlled, and lethal. My uncle's coattails. Each word cut like a knife, precise and dripping with venom. You want to go there, Joy? You really want to make this about family connections? Let's talk about how you got your big break, shall we? Let's discuss the real story of how Joy Behar became Joy Behar. Joy's confidence faltered for the first time. That's completely different, and you know it. Is it? Cage took a deliberate step closer, his presence dominating the entire studio. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like someone who's never created anything meaningful is attacking someone who has dedicated his entire life to his craft. And now you want to make it personal. The other hosts had abandoned any pretense of control. Whoopi watched, captivated. Sarah had her hand over her mouth. The audience sat frozen, witnessing what could only be described as television history. Personal? Joy's voice cracked with hysteria. You made it personal when you insulted my intelligence, my career, my viewers. You think you can come on here and act like some tortured artist when everyone knows you're just a joke? Cage laughed, sharp, bitter, and merciless. A joke? You want to know what's a joke, Joy? The fact that you think tearing down others makes you important. That you believe cynicism is wisdom, that you've spent decades being negative so much that you've forgotten what it means to actually contribute something positive to the world. Positive! Joy shrieked. What's positive about making terrible movies that waste people's time and money? What's positive about convincing yourself that screaming and overacting is art? Cage slammed his hand on the table. The glasses jumped. The studio seemed to shudder. What's positive is that I try, Joy. What's positive is that I put myself out there. I take risks. I attempt to give people experiences they've never had before. Sometimes I fail. Sometimes I succeed. But at least I'm not hiding behind a desk, making cheap shots at people who are actually in the arena. The weight of Theodore Roosevelt's famous words hung in the air, whether Joy realized it or not. Cage's voice rose, filling every corner of the studio with authority and fire. You want to know what my movies are really about? Passion, commitment, refusing to play it safe in a world full of people like you who think the highest form of entertainment is watching someone else fail. Every role I've ever taken, from the smallest indie to the biggest blockbuster, has been approached with the same level of dedication and respect for the craft. Joy stepped back, intimidated by the sheer force of his presence. That's all well and good, but it doesn't change the fact that some of your movies are objectively terrible. Objectively terrible? Cage's voice dropped to that low, dangerous whisper that carried more menace than any shout. According to who? According to you? According to critics who wouldn't recognize genuine artistic risk if it bit them on the rear end? According to people who think safe, predictable mediocrity is somehow superior to ambitious failure? Joy stammered. According to audiences? According to box office numbers? According to common sense? Cage shook his head slowly, pity replacing anger in his eyes. You really don't get it, do you, Joy? You think art is supposed to be safe. You think creativity is supposed to fit into neat little boxes that make everyone comfortable. You've spent so long living in that world that you can't even recognize authenticity when it's standing right in front of you. The studio was silent, every eye fixed on Cage. Every heartbeat seemed to pause. The tension was electric. This was no longer just an interview. This was a masterclass in conviction, a collision of philosophy, art, and raw human intensity. And for everyone watching, it was unforgettable. Authenticity? Joy's voice climbed higher, edged with desperation. Is that what you call it when you buy dinosaur skulls and pyramid tombs? Is that authentic? Or is that just rich guy weirdness? The personal attack didn't wound Cage, it energized him. Every word that followed hit with the full force of his talent, his presence, and his conviction. You know what, Joy? Yes, I bought unusual things. Yes, I made choices that most people wouldn't dare. But at least I lived my life instead of sitting in judgment of people who actually have the courage to be different. At least I didn't spend my career hiding behind safe opinions and manufactured controversy. Joy was visibly trembling now, whether from anger, disbelief, or something deeper. I'm not hiding behind anything, she shot back. I say what needs to be said. Someone has to call out the nonsense. The nonsense? Cage's voice rose to a roar that could probably be heard in the parking lot. The real nonsense is thinking destruction is the same as criticism. The real nonsense is believing that tearing people down makes you important. The real nonsense is wasting a platform that could celebrate human creativity, and instead using it to spread misery and negativity. The studio was pin-drop quiet. Even the camera operators seemed frozen, afraid to break the spell of what they were witnessing. Joy made one last, desperate attempt. I'm not spreading misery. I'm being honest about quality. I'm refusing to pretend that everything is wonderful when it's not. Cage stared at her, unblinking. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of truth itself, pressing down on everyone in the room. Joy, the saddest part of this conversation is that you actually believe that. You've convinced yourself that negativity is honesty, that cruelty is truth-telling, that your inability to appreciate something different is somehow a virtue. But here's what you don't understand. You don't get to decide what art means to other people. You don't get to determine what brings joy or meaning to someone's life. All you get to do is choose. Are you going to add something positive to the world, or are you going to spend your time tearing down the people who are actually trying to create something beautiful? He straightened. Every inch the commanding, imposing figure audiences had admired for decades. I feel sorry for you, Joy. I genuinely do. Because somewhere along the way, you forgot that the point of art, of entertainment, of human expression is to connect with each other, to share experiences, to find common ground in our shared humanity. Instead, you've chosen to use your platform to divide, to mock, to diminish. And the truly tragic part is, you think that makes you important. Joy opened her mouth, but no words came. For perhaps the first time in her long television career, Joy Behar was completely speechless. Cage adjusted his jacket, a picture of calm dignity after delivering a masterclass in both acting and human decency. Thank you for having me on your show, he said politely, devastatingly. I hope your viewers got the entertainment they were looking for. And with that, he walked off the set, leaving Joy Behar standing alone at the table, still unable to form a coherent response. The cameras lingered on her shocked face for several long, silent seconds before cutting to commercial. But the damage had already been done. Nicolas Cage had delivered one of the most devastating takedowns in daytime television history, and Joy Behar had been left speechless in her own house. That's the power of authentic passion meeting manufactured controversy. That's what happens when someone who actually creates something faces off against someone whose career is built on tearing others down. And that's why this moment will be remembered as one of the most explosive confrontations ever captured on live television. What do you think? Did Joy Behar deserve what she got? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more unforgettable moments like this.